So how do you feel emotions? Is that something that you've ever asked yourself where you are very good at being linear and logical in your thought process, but perhaps you know that there's something that you want to feel, but you just can't feel it, and you're just so proud. You're like, I haven't cried in 7 years, and it's like a badge of honor that like you don't cry or you haven't felt mad or haven't felt, an angry thing in your life because you don't feel anything. So maybe you're happy that way, and some folks it's like, yep, I don't feel anything. I'm numb to it and like works for me. Okay, do your life. But also sometimes you're in this space when you're in your healing journey where you're saying, like, yeah, I actually want to be able to experience my emotions because I know that they're holding me back some way. Whether it's holding me back from something I want to do or somewhere that I want to be or something that I'm trying to heal through from my past. I need to feel this, but I just don't know how. And so if you're in that boat, you're probably somebody who's like a really great intellectualizer, so like the clinical definitions of the emotions, so what like fear is and what happiness is and what joy is and what pleasure is, what anger is. In theory, that, and of course, like at some point you have felt something. I'm not gonna like pretend like you haven't felt anything, but perhaps there's like a particular emotion that wants to be expressed through you that is just like not getting there. You know that you want to scream and shout, but like you're just not feeling angry. And you feel like you want to cry, but there's something that's just in the way. Like you're experiencing things that should make you cry, but it's just not. You're kind of numb on a nervous system level. So in this conversation, I'll break down to you a 4R method. It's 4R method that's going to help you think about how to approach emotions if you're somebody who struggles with feeling emotions, or if you're somebody who wants to go deeper into your emotions, you want to go the next layer. Like you started feeling and now you're like, there's more. I know there's something else. This is going to help you out. First things first, welcome to the Playground Podcast. Subscribe to the podcast if you're not already subscribed. And we talk about spiritual exploration, self mastery, self development, self exploration, all about the self. And basically, this is the playground. So we talk about anything that we want to that's helping us grow and learn here. Now, the 4R method, take some notes, okay? Take some notes because like if you're somebody who's like, I don't know how to feel emotions, you're a note taker. You love stationery, so I know you've got some, good notebooks and journals laying around. But the first thing about experiencing emotions is to raise the emotion. So that's the first R. The first R is all about bringing the emotion to the surface. Now, that's easier said than done because I could just be like, feel angry, feel sadness, feel happiness. And for some people, it's instantaneous. They can get to that emotional state. But if you're asking this question, how do I feel? That's probably not as easy for you, right? So we have to do practices like breath work. We have to activate and kind of trigger the nervous system to let go of the control. So, on a nervous system perspective, what your nervous system does is that it keeps you in a place where it feels safe. So, if you're avoiding an emotion, say for example, the emotion is anger, right? Say for example, if you are avoiding the emotion of anger, your body's going to say, I'm going to just hold it in because I don't know what I'm going to find if I experience anger. And if I actually experience anger, I'm going to say a bunch of shit that I don't mean, and it's not going to turn out that well. So your body basically makes a decision for you that it's safer to keep the anger in than to have that conversation, than to say the thing or to express the thing that you actually want to do because it's safer here, because if you do that, then there's like risk to that. So the first things first is that we actually have to allow that emotion to rise into the body, to raise into the body. So basically, what you do is you practice a rhythmic breath work. So I don't really recommend you do this by yourself if you're somebody who's not practiced in breath work. Go to a class or come to my classes, come to our breathwork for perfectionist classes and take, a lot of the resources that I have in the descriptions and whatnot. But you want to be in a container where you feel safe to bring the emotions to the surface. So it doesn't mean that you know what to do with the emotions once they're here. It doesn't mean that you have to interpret the emotion. It doesn't mean that you need to like identify or be really good at identify. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that it's here. Like, oh shit, I feel uncomfortable. Like something in my throat or something in my chest. And that's how you know that emotions are coming to the surface because you start to feel the constriction in your body. Sometimes it's expansion, sometimes it's heat. Emotions also travel as heat. So you might feel like hot, right? Anger as an emotion is hot-headed, heated with rage. You see like the steam coming out when people are talking about like in cartoons when, a character is really angry, it's a very hot temperature. Now there's cold emotions that are like avoidance or rejection or abandonment. Those things can process very cold. It can like process as chills in your body, chills in your neck, chills in your chest. Everybody's body is slightly different, but there's an overarching theme there as well. So it's just to allow these sensations to raise into the body without the judgment of it. It's not to say like, oh, my heart is clenching. Is that heartache? Is that pain? Is that joy? Is that pleasure? What kind of chakra is here? What kind of energy is like, that's you in your cognitive mind. That's you in your analytic mind. That's trying to like correlate. Oh my gosh, the heat means this and this means that. It's here. It's just here. Just let it come. Okay. So with breath work, what we do is allow the emotions to come to the surface so that you have an opportunity to be able to process that. Now, the second thing is a follow up to the first. So once it arises in your body, the second R is to recognize them. So recognize the presence of it. And again, you don't have to interpret them. You don't have to know what it means or what it doesn't mean or what it's from your childhood or not from your, I don't know. It's just here. I'm uncomfy in my chest. That's it. Or I feel this in my shoulder. They say burden on your shoulder for a reason because emotions sit in the physical body. So you feel heartache in your heart, your chest. You feel intuition in your gut. You feel fear and abandonment in your lower back. Now you just recognize that it's here. It's like, I don't know, like all of a sudden through breath work, I'm feeling this activation in my throat. I'm just feeling this heat in the side of my neck. And it's not both of my sides of my neck, it's just my right side or my left side or whatever that may be. You're starting to just recognize that it's here. And this is a really important part of the process too, because sometimes we go through life having raised our emotions and having the emotion to the surface, but we're just not recognizing that we're feeling them. Where it's like, no, I don't feel, I'm cold, I'm numb, I'm a bad bitch, I'm an OG, I don't have feelings, like that doesn't bother me. You're too, like you're hardcore, so you're pretending like these things don't matter to you, or like they don't have any kind of place in your existence. So the second part is to actually start to recognize like, oh yeah, when I talk about this topic, my chest like really clenches. Or when I read this thing on the internet, it really hurt my stomach. My heart went to the pit of my stomach. You understand? Like we're describing different parts of the body where we're actually processing things psychosomatically. So let's move to the next thing, which is the third piece, which is the release piece. So now that we brought the emotion to the surface, we don't know what it is. We don't have to make meanings to it. Now we recognize that. And now we start to create a pathway for its release. So instead of attaching narratives of like, this is here because of my ex, or this is here because of my children, or this is here because of that, you can, but that puts you into your mind and outside of your body again. So now you're trying to figure out how this release can happen for you. And in breathwork, in flow breathwork, it's movement. Flow breathwork, it's the breath. Flow breathwork, it's the energy sciences. In flow breathwork, it's the understand of the elements that process in your body. So all of these things can be done through movement. It can be done through vocalization. It could be done through screaming, yelling. Those are vocalizations. It can be done through singing. It can be done through crying. There's a part of this that is the release process. Now, everybody is going to release differently. And when you're working together with a somatic practitioner or somebody's trained in breath work, they're going to be able to guide you through the process of what you need for your release. Because if your anger does not want to release as punching and like what you think anger should release as, maybe your anger actually releases as tears. That's the pathway that we're uncovering through a breathwork process. Because once the emotions have risen to the surface, and when you recognize it's actually sitting at your throat, and what you really want us to do is say, oh, and it sounds so ugly and weird, and you're just like, I don't know, like what is this like guttural sound coming out of me? And I didn't think that anger would sound like a whale, but all of a sudden it does. And that's the release portion of that. So this is like the gestures, this is the jumping, this is the shaking, this is the letting go of the shame or the guilt or any kind of judgment that you have about what the emotion means. And part of why sometimes we have that difficulty of, yes, we do experience life with emotions, but we don't recognize it, is because we have some type of feelings about our emotions, so we're like, I'm not allowed to feel that, or I'm being a burden if I am feeling that, or I'm too much, or nobody has time, or I'll deal with it myself. Whatever other narratives, we can unpack that later. You know what I mean? Like whatever other narratives you have with that, it's going to, sometimes prevent you from that release. But when you're in a breathwork session, in a flow breathwork session, your body essentially goes into an activated state where your mind doesn't have the opportunity to give you the narrative. It's basically saying, oh, we're going there, but within the safety of your nervous system. So if there's something that you're not willing to experience from a nervous system perspective, your nervous system will protect you. So you'll never see more or experience more than you're ready to handle. And so your body will say, yes, let's go there. Or it will say, nope, I'm going to fall asleep, or I'm going to stop breathing, or this is stupid. I'm not doing this. Like, what are these crazy people doing? So you're going to create a narrative around that. But as the body's capacity expands, as the nervous system's capacity expands to be able to deal with the emotions that are at play, you create a better opportunity and better environment for you to be able to release those emotions. Okay. So some of my favorite is like, I love to like I just like make like some sounds while I'm doing breath work. I love to shake. I love to move from side to side. There's all of these emotions that come through that are flowing through me that I don't need to intellectualize, that I don't need to, explain to somebody. And that's often what we see in a lot of therapy spaces where you're just talking about your problems, you're not feeling through your problems. And as beneficial that could be for recognizing a problem or recognizing an emotion, just knowing about an emotion and feeling an emotion are two different types of intelligence. So we're working on the emotional intelligence and the psychosomatic intelligence, the wisdom of your physical body. Now, okay, let's move forward, which is the fourth R is to regulate. Okay. So now that this emotion has released, it can actually feel really overwhelming, in a good way and also a scary way, meaning that you just finally like said the thing. You said, I'm angry, I'm sad, fuck this person, this, da, da, da. Or like, I'm lonely, like you find, or like, I'm mean, or like whatever it is that you like recognize about yourself, like you might have some feelings about that, and so now we have to deregulate, we have to calm down, and we have to regulate that scenario, which is to say, well, okay, now that we have expressed this emotion, what does this mean for us going forward? What does this emotion, what does this awareness do for us going forward? Because it's great that we have that emotion, and it's great that we were able to release it. But now I don't want to be in a place where it's like, okay, and then what? Big awareness, right? And sometimes like there is no additional integration needed where the codes have already settled into your physical body and you have all the awareness that you need going forward. So you don't really need to dissect that. Right. And that's the thing about regulation. It's not about mental dissection. It's about the emotional, physical, psychosomatic dissection. So now you say, how do I maintain this awareness now that I have this awareness? Right. So there's a part of that acceptance of, yeah, this is hard for me to, this is hard for me to mention, or this is hard for me to accept. This is hard for me to come to a realization, whatever it is, the realization that you came to, that might be the case. And sometimes it's just this deep feeling of gratitude where you're like, cathartically feeling this big release, like, wow, I was finally able to let that go. And I didn't have to go back into my past or my childhood and relive every single detail and like, and reconcile every single moment in conversation, the things that you've been repeating in your head over and over. You don't have to do that. You were able to experience forgiveness and love and gratitude and thankfulness and all these different things. That's just like, it just is. So the four R's, I call it the raise, the recognize, the release, and the regulate. And so if you're struggling to feel your emotions, I recommend that you come breathe with us. You come to Breathwork Club, you come to some of the resources that I'll drop into the show notes, and you can also train to become a breathwork facilitator. So if you're somebody who's trying to help other people feel their emotions, you want to help them regulate their emotions, you want to help them figure out how that release looks like, not just from the mind, but from the physical somatic body, you need to come study with us. And we study from a psychosomatic perspective, meaning a mind body perspective, in the lens of wisdom traditions. From a BIPOC lens, we study the indigenous roots, the mind body connection, the physiology of breath work, energy sciences. So, how does energy and emotions connect with each other? How do energy, emotions, and elements connect with each other? What does that mean in the context of healing? It's made in a super cohesive way so that you're able to take an integrative journey into a beautiful art of breath work. Now, breath work is for therapists, they're for social workers, they're for the nurses, the doulas, the yoga teachers, the coaches, the healers. Folks who work with people to help them heal must learn breath work. It is the number one somatic healing tool, and it's the tool that is available to people when you're not there for them. It gives them the power back in their hands when you're not there to facilitate. So when people know how to rise up their emotion, they can deal with the blocks they're experiencing in their lives. They can recognize what those blocks are doing to them and for them. They can release those things. They don't have to hold on to things that don't serve them, and they are able to regulate their discoveries by being able to integrate it from this integrative perspective. So if you are down to study with me, go ahead and head to www.flowbreathworktraining.com, and you'll see all the resources. And of course, I'll link you a bunch of links in the show notes so that you can have direct access. Well, friends, I hope this helps you. I hope that you know that you're already feeling, but now it's just like, let's elevate that emotion, let's elevate that expression, and really, really get into the human experience that is deeply gratifying and deeply beautiful. And just remember, the world is your playground. And until next time, I will catch you soon.